Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, then you know that this is something that we have spoken about time and time again. But in today's video, we have the worst of the Epstein files being leaked, yeah? Now, I recently did a video exposing all of the files that we received, which was apparently only half of the files that we're going to be reacting to in today's video. And that video got deleted, yeah? YouTube, once again, forced me to delete a video exposing the truth, bro. That's just the common trend. They don't want these type of things out there. So we're about to react to this entire video of the worst of the Epstein files, exposing the corrupt elites. I want you guys to leave a like on this video. Get this video into the algorithm so that more people can see what's going on. This is going to be a video exposing more than what we already saw in the past.
Okay, by the time this video gets out there, there's probably going to be even more, but with a brand new multi-million page Epstein data dump, I wanted to dive in and look at the most immediately damaging stuff that we have, and also talk about just how badly the government screwed up, because it is bad, like historically bad levels of incompetence. Let's start with this, because we absolutely need the context. This is Todd Blanche, former personal lawyer for Donald Trump, who is now Deputy Attorney General of the United States. On January 30th, 2026, Blanche took the stage for a massive press conference unveiling that the DOJ and the FBI would be releasing about 3.5 million pages of new Epstein files as required by congressional law. The important part is at about 4 minutes and 10 seconds in, where he discusses the redaction guidelines and bloviates at length about how strict the criteria was, how hard their staff worked on these redactions, and how nothing was being withheld on the basis of national security. If you actually listened to him and took his words at face value, which you absolutely should not do, this is the most transparent administration ever. The quality of their work is unimpeachable, and the redactions that they made were only to protect victim information, nothing else. Sadly, that is a lie. Over the course of today's video, I'll go through a series of examples in an effort to give as comprehensive a look as I can so far for this file dump. But at the end of it all, I want everyone to consider a question. Is the current governing administration in the United States telling the truth? Here we go. Item number 1, which is actually 2 documents in this case, EFTA 01660679 and EFTA 01660651. These documents show a collection of insane allegations against Donald Trump. These come from the NTOC, National Threat Operations Center at the FBI, which is where they process and vet public tips, and some of them are very obviously marked as not credible. Others are flagged as no contact made after attempting to follow up with the caller. But
I don't know how many of you guys have seen that video that's been circulating of Donald Trump getting a question by an interviewer, someone from CNN. And he's like, listen, I just think that we all need to just move on from this. We all need to stop focusing. Americans need to focus on something different, bro. Of course you want them to focus on something different, weirdo. Like, come on, bruh. And when you actually take a look, I don't know if he's going to read through the actual files, but you could take the time to just pause it as we go through this video. Just read what's going on. Was forced President Trump approximately, just read it really quickly, yeah.
Here and there, you start finding that some of these reports resulted in a, quote, lead being sent to conduct interviews. Obviously, I can't comment on the authenticity of these allegations overall. But there's something else I found interesting, something far more important in my mind, that speaks to the credibility of the DOJ, the Department of Justice itself, and their decision-making when it came to these redactions. Look at these 2 documents. Separate files, sure, but not always different content. Quote, complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed 3 separate blank, and then it's all redacted. However, this file isn't. The rest of the sentence says, quote, incidents involving police which requested in mandatory psychiatric evaluations.
That's interesting.
That right there, although small in a vacuum, is the very first example in a massive, massive pattern. A pattern where the DOJ is redacting things that make no sense. Things that they have no legal right to withhold, and things that may in fact matter a great deal. We just don't really have the ability to know because we don't have the full picture. Example, they literally redacted the word none in this file. And you can straight up read some of the other redactions because they're not centered properly. It's a joke. Even still, keeping in mind that the goal here is to analyze everything as objectively as possible, we need to do a bit of a fact check because despite massively viral social media claims all over the place, these 2 files were not actually pulled down or deleted immediately after publication. There were some 404 errors displayed on the DOJ website briefly, but they were ultimately resolved within minutes, I think, actually, and the files are now clearly visible again. I'm not sure why that happened. Bro. The sheer amount of traffic may very well have played a part as people flooded into the directory specifically searching for those particular files. And it's entirely possible that the DOJ panicked, deleted them, and then reinstated them, 100%. Like they appear to have done previously with a different batch of files. But this time I honestly see no indication of that happening. This time it feels like a genuine glitch. Do you want to know what isn't a glitch? This right here, an FD 302 victim interview, which is mostly redacted, clearly protecting certain perpetrator names alongside the potential.
Man redacted the whole page, bro. The whole page is just blacked out. That literally doesn't make any sense, bro.
Which is mostly redacted, clearly protecting certain perpetrator names alongside the potential victims. But even from what we see unredacted, quote, Maxwell presented blank to Trump and they had a conversation for approximately 20 minutes. Blank was invited to Mar-a-Lago, where she was given a tour by Trump with Epstein and Maxwell present. Nothing happened between Blank and Trump. By the things that Maxwell said, it was made clear that Blank was available. Maxwell said things like, "Oh, I think he likes you. Aren't you lucky? This is great." End quote. Put whatever kind of spin on that you want to. But what I see, personally, is a victim being presented to someone with the obvious implication that they can have her if they want her. These are very serious allegations, and they're not the only ones. The sole focus of the video, by the way, isn't just Donald Trump, so I'm not going to read all of them, but the gist of it is that there are incredibly damaging revelations about how...
And it's really crazy how most of these people that we see on this screen, Weinstein, Prince, what is it right here? Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, like all of these people have been people that we have obviously discussed and exposed in the past, but we never really had hardcore evidence until the last half of the files were released, and now the new half of the files are released. And once again, I want you to just take the time. Take the time. Pause the video and read what's going on, yeah.
How close Trump and Epstein were so far beyond what we've been told is true, it is no longer possible to hand-wave the files away as just a Democrat hoax. Pivoting back to the first two documents, I also want to point out something else. In between the spreadsheets and the accusations, we have emails in August of 2025. But the thing about these emails is that here we can see that they clearly acknowledge redacting a reporter's name, who explicitly is not a victim, Anthony Sibeli, I think is how you say it, while also on one of the sheets failing to redact an actual potential victim name, Leslie McMichael, in a further display of incompetence. Like I said previously, the video isn't focused solely on Donald Trump, but we're looking at well over 5,000 mentions of his name, and that's only the searchable portions of the archive that they've indexed, which hasn't even all been released so far. Let's move on to someone else, okay? Arguably the largest individual catalyst who has been deliberately stoking speculation about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and that is Elon Musk. Elon has long maintained his near total separation from Epstein. He claims that the photograph of him and Ghislaine Maxwell is just a photobomb that she perpetrated and he had no idea about it. He claims that he was invited to Epstein Island but refused, and he desperately lashes out at anyone who insinuates otherwise over the past several months. Quote, "Shame on Sky News for this utterly misleading headline. Anyone pushing this false narrative deserves complete contempt. Epstein tried to get me to go to his island, and I refused. Yet they named me even before Prince Andrew, who did visit." End quote. Strong words, very defensive, but it turns out that we act...
Now, one thing I want to say is this. Not everything that we see on social media is true. And I am by no means defending anybody in this video. But what I am saying is there are a lot of people who will create content for clicks, for the views, for the headlines, for virality, there are a lot of news publishing sites that you simply just cannot trust the authenticity of what they're saying. That's just the reality. That's just the world that we live in, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of people. Pay attention to the people who are not denying it. Pay attention to the people who are saying we just need to get over this and move on. Pay attention to those people. Because I feel like those are the people who are dropping little breadcrumbs and really revealing the truth about what's going on.
Actually have emails between Musk, Epstein, and Leslie Groff, one of Epstein's assistants, reading, quote, Elon to Epstein, Will be in the BVI/St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? End quote. That's a little bit curious given his proclamations that Epstein invited him to the island, but let's read on. Epstein replies, any day 1st to 8th. Play it by ear if you want. Always space for you. After which Elon says, okay, probably the 1st then. They correspond back and forth a bit longer, but anyone who reads this conversation can decidedly say with certainty that Epstein was not asking Elon to go to his island. Elon was trying to go. Facts. Oh, that's not enough? Okay, I can understand that. Some people really drank the Kool-Aid. Here's an email from Musk to Epstein after Epstein asks, how many people will you be for the heli to the island? Saying, quote, probably just Tallulah and me. Tallulah was his wife at the time. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island? End quote. Epstein tried to get me to go to his island, and I refused. Okay, yeah. Ultimately, for this particular set of exchanges, it doesn't look like Elon actually attended the party in 2012 or 2013, but a couple of months later, in February, we see this thread between Musk and Epstein, seemingly indicating that Epstein was given some kind of private tour of SpaceX. Interestingly, when it comes to Epstein receiving tours of various facilities, that's not even the only example. Right here, with this email, we can look at the competence of the redaction team yet again, and it's really not good. In this particular email from March of 2014, Epstein is corresponding with an unknown, redacted individual, and yet in this next thread, document EFTA 0098580, we can see the same exact email, this time unredacted, with the name Alan Jones. There is no justifiable or legal reason to be redacting that man's name. Just for the sake of really hammering this point home so that even the brain-dead fans of Elon Musk are still able to fully comprehend, let me read one more email thread before moving on to the next document. This one, December of 2012, which for clarity's sake is after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008. Whoa. Quote from Epstein, you are welcome to stay or just come for the day. Plenty of room. I will send a heli to get you. End quote. To which Elon replies, do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year, and so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. End quote. Still not finished, by the way. Epstein replies, understood, I will see you on St. Barth. The ratio on my island might make Tallulah uncomfortable. End quote. After which Elon chimes in again, quote, ratio is not a problem for Tallulah, end quote. Honestly, I really don't think I have to spell it out here, but this is Elon Musk asking to join the most notorious in recent history on his personal island to let loose, deliberately requesting to be there for the wildest parties, and when Epstein indicates ratio, as in a law, which might make Elon's wife uncomfortable, Elon says, not a problem. And this takes place years after Epstein was convicted of sex. Riddle me that one, Elon fans. Side point, here's two different versions of the same exact page that the DOJ uploaded. One of them redacts Elon's email address, the other redacts metadata. Combined, you can see the full page, obviously, thus rendering all of the redactions void, and they even shouldn't have been censored in the first place, so double whammy.
You know what I really think? I think the reason why they do that, the reason why there have been multiple examples of one page being redacted where the other page isn't being redacted is simply to just cover themselves, right? Because let's just say, for example, someone read the first page and they didn't see the email address. How likely is it for someone to read the entire file 50 pages later and find the full page, right? To put that piece together. So I think they're trying to cover themselves by saying, nah, we released all the files. Listen, it's all out there. We released all the information. But they just redacted certain parts on certain pages because they might have thought to themselves, hey, people are probably not going to look through all the files as diligently as we may think. People are probably not going to look through every single document. So let's just redact some information here. Let's redact some information here just so that the people who get to the earlier pages decide not to read it anymore because the information is redacted. That's what I think. That's what I believe is actually happening right now, bro.
Amazing. Now that we're talking about billionaires, however, let's just keep talking about that precious class of person, the billionaires. Remember Bill Gates, notoriously close with Epstein for like decades? Yeah, this email right here appears to show that Gates allegedly requested antibiotics from Epstein so that he could secretly give them to Melinda after contracting an STD from Russian girls. Quote, "To add insult to the injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda."
Hold on. We can't read that out loud on this channel, man. This is a new channel. Take the time. Dear Bill. In other words, this is from, it says from Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm assuming this is like a draft email that he was going to send to Bill Clinton. All right, because it says from Jeffrey to Jeffrey. All right. But just take the time to read this. Information contained is in this communication is confidential, maybe attorney. Okay. So this is apparently what they use to safely send emails to each other. But just take the time to read it out. We can't have this conversation on the new channel. All right.
Throw this out there. Having secrets between you and Jeffrey Epstein that have to remain between the two of you doesn't look very good. In fact, it might make some people think that you're guilty of heinous crimes. Maybe. For context, by the way, speaking to Vanity Fair in March of 2022, Melinda Gates said, quote, "I did not like that he had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. No, I made that clear to him." Then saying, after meeting Epstein a single time, quote again, "I regretted it the second I walked in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. My heart breaks for those women," end quote. At various times afterwards, she heavily insinuates that association with Epstein was one of the factors behind their entire divorce. And if I had to speculate here, I would say that sharing secrets with Epstein and trying to sneak her antibiotics could hypothetically have caused a marriage to crumble. Jumping over to an entirely separate but distinctly kind of related topic, theories have been circulating for many, many years that Epstein was an agent of Israeli intelligence, Mossad, and this document right here, a CHS report, confidential human source, directly claims that Donald Trump and Alan Dershowitz as well were co-opted and compromised by Israel. I think it's worth noting that confidential human source intelligence is not a public tip line. It's a cultivated agency source working directly with the FBI prior to that point in time. It's not an agent or an employee, it's a source, which doesn't necessarily mean it's true, by the way, but it's not a random phone call. This is a significantly elevated level of intelligence gathering far beyond just anonymous tips. Still, as with practically every single other document, the DOJ and the FBI, I guess, appear to be breaking the law. Looking at this right here, we can see Harry Tenosodenbio, however the fuck you say that. That name is clearly visible right here. Bro. But then redacted in the very same line. This guy is an Indonesian billionaire politician, by the way, continuing the trend of billionaires being deeply associated with Epstein, but it's difficult to emphasize just how pathetic it is to have this.
I really find it crazy how many billionaires. That's actually crazy right here. 666 Fifth Avenue. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. Right here. Let me show you guys real quick. 666 Fifth Ave. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. But I find it very interesting to know how many billionaires actually exist in this world. So many people don't realize that there are a lot of people with power. The only way to really establish power is having leverage. The two main methods of leverage is Jeffrey Epstein, for example, having these files, these recordings, these videos, these everything that he has against these politicians and these celebrities. That is his leverage, and that's why he was a person of power, right? Because he wasn't rich. Like Jeffrey Epstein did not start off his career rich. I want you guys to understand that. But someone like Harry Tenosodenbio, I've never even heard of the man before, bruh. He's definitely influencing global affairs. Like he's definitely influencing things on a global level. But there are a lot of people that we've never even heard of who are making decisions for people's lives on a daily basis. I find that to be crazy.
Same name, illegally redacted on one side, but left plainly visible on the other side of the same line of the same document. A child could quite literally do a better job of redacting these files. Not necessarily a billionaire yet, I should say, but Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce appointed by Trump himself, was also visiting Epstein's island as per these files, corresponding with Leslie Groff at the time. Once again, Leslie Groff was Epstein's assistant, and this happened in 2012, despite Lutnick in 2025 saying, quote, "In the 6 to 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again," referring to Epstein, after an interaction from 2005. Don't believe me? Okay, sure.
That was last year, yeah.
Here's the actual video. It's a whole lot worse.
And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Really? So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Oh yeah, dude. He's so bad that Howard Lutnick was directly emailing with Epstein and his assistant about going to lunch on the island in 2012, 7 years after he vowed to never be in the same room with him because he's gross. He really put his foot down on that one, didn't he? Moving on, we have Kevin Warsh, Trump's current pick to replace Jerome Powell as chairman of the Federal Reserve, who also apparently went visiting on the island for the very same party, making me wonder just how many people in the current administration were straight up friends with the guy well and truly after his conviction in 2008. However, just to reiterate one of my sort of pillar arguments here, the greatest blunder by far are the redactions. Frankly, I'm honestly baffled. They redacted a fucking Wikipedia article from 2022 about Trump. Look here. This is an archived version from the exact same time period where they took out words in the DOJ files like Italia, DC, and Stone, as in Roger Stone, despite his name appearing 7 other times in the same article. You could not possibly fuck up these redactions any worse if you literally tried to. It's straight up insane how many completely unnecessary and totally irrelevant redactions are in these files, not to mention the stuff that they just messed up or failed to do. How about this? Here's another troubling exchange. Email from Epstein to an unknown individual. Quote, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the..." To which the unknown person replies that they're in China. Epstein then says, "Hope to see you." Alarmingly, that's not even the only mention of her, because in September of 2011, we have these emails between a man named Tancredi Marchiolo and Epstein, in which Epstein says, quote, "What would you like me to do with your friend? Do you want me to try to do her or just her?" Tancredi Salvatore Marchiolo, as far as I can tell, is a hedge fund guy, formerly a partner at Bremner Capital, and now potentially working at a place called Harbor V Limited as a director after using a slightly different name in the filings. Not entirely sure who this guy is, but he shows up a lot in these files directly with Epstein, like well over 1,000 mentions. Going on a bit of a tangent right now, some people may not be fully aware of the scope here. This isn't just Epstein and a few friends and I care more about these other policies. This is a collection of the richest and most powerful people in the entire world who enabled and perpetuated the abuse for years. Here's another interesting bit. This is an email chain between Epstein and the Russian deputy economic minister.
Bro, it's not even about supporting it. It's like they're a part, they're promoting it. Like, I want people to start realizing, like, the world that we live in is very, very evil. When we speak about this power between good and evil, when we speak about this spiritual warfare, understand that half of these people that we're talking about right now are filled with a demonic spirit. Like, I'm not talking about figuratively, and there are going to be a lot of people who may not believe in God, but they do believe in the evil. You can't believe in one and not the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, it just doesn't make sense logically speaking, right? But there are so many people that are literally filled with demonic spirits, who are literally doing these things to fill their spirit. That demonic spirit's own pleasure. Like, I want people to start understanding that no normal human being with a God-given conscience is going to do something like this amongst the same crowd of people. Notice how all of these people are billionaires. Like, I didn't get an email. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get a text message. You feel me? It's not just ordinary people. It's a specific group of people who are doing this. And that's not to say that everybody who's rich, that everybody who has money is evil, because that's the furthest thing from the truth. But when we see things like this, you have to understand their character.
At the time, Sergei Belyakov, quote from Epstein, "How are you? I need a favor. There is a Russian girl from Moscow, blank, attempting to blackmail a group of powerful businessmen in New York. It is bad for business for everyone involved. She arrived in New York Saturday or last week staying at blank," end quote. And the reply that he gets says, quote, "Give me a few days to get information about her," followed by, "Hi, Jeffrey. Tomorrow I'm meeting with a guy who knows her / about her. If you have any details about case you have mentioned, it could help," end quote. In response, Epstein says, "Saying powerful men taking advantage of women like her, etc." And I don't know what eventually happened to this poor girl, but I really don't think that they just bought her donuts and said, "Hey, please stop." We are being told by the Trump administration with their intentionally compromised law enforcement agencies that there was no blackmail ring. Epstein was alone. There were no other prosecutable leads, no other perpetrators to investigate or involved or trafficking to anyone or by anyone, and that we should shut up and stop asking questions. The FBI director has been saying that. The attorney general has been saying that. All of his top officials are backing him when they say that there's nothing to see. Meanwhile, we have literal correspondence between Epstein and Russian officials about a young woman blackmailing powerful businessmen because they took advantage of her, which was the entire premise of what Epstein did. And yet, also this Tancredi Marchiolo guy, I mean, you have people corresponding with Epstein thousands of times saying that they're giving and receiving torture videos from him, right? And yet, somehow this painfully self-evident spiderweb of perpetrators and their sick, twisted social network have faced zero consequences. The Epstein files may not result in widespread accountability, okay? Dejectedly, I'm accepting that fact. But the one thing that they have done is pull back the curtain for a whole lot of people on who exactly runs the world. They're not like you and me. They're fucking evil. I could go on and on and on, so for the sake of the video not being 10 hours long, here's one final critical document. If you search during the first party in the DOJ archive, you get 3 items, 1 in dataset 9 and 2 in dataset 10. This is an extremely graphic accusation against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, alleging a victim that was only 13 years old.
Once again, take the time to read what's being shown on the screen. We can't speak about it on YouTube. We follow the guidelines, all right? We every video that we post, we follow the guidelines. But just read this, yeah.
And each of these 3 documents has different redactions. Document 1 has address, case number, and half of the names redacted. Document 2 redacts the names, but not the address or the case number. And document 3 only redacts half of the address and the case number, but not the names. Collectively, in my view, these 3 documents perfectly exemplify the incompetence of the Epstein cover-up. All 3 of them fail, in every single conceivable sense of the word, to not only uphold the law, as ordered by Congress, but also to protect personal information and the identities of potential victims, while also over-redacting the case number, with no justification, in a triple threat display of abject, complete, disgusting, and shameful failure. This,
bro, they're not trying to keep it a secret. They can't do it legally. The one thing that I realize about these famous people or these rich people of power is that technically speaking, they're not above the law. Technically speaking, they are not above the law. They can create the law. They can use their money to influence the law. But if someone like him or this YouTube channel, if someone like myself or someone like that Russian girl has information that can harm them using the law, then they will do things in their power to make it subside. My point in saying that is they're not trying to redact information so that we won't know about it. They're trying to redact information so that we give up on finding the truth about it. The same way that there are loopholes with your money in the tax codes, the same way that all these millionaires like Hillary Clinton, like Donald Trump use the tax code to their advantage, but there are small loopholes that you probably don't know about. It's the same way that I believe that they're releasing these files, multiple page files with different redactions on each page, just so they can try to throw people off, just so they can try to hide certain things. But they can't do it legally. They're legally not allowed to hide the critical information. So then they just duplicate the pages and redact certain information. And if you put it all together, then you get the truth. This is literally what they do, bro. This is they try to find every single loophole to just be more and more secretive. But look, yeah, I'm going to end this video here. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you send this to as many people as possible. A lot of people aren't going into detail as we did in today's video. But I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.